Okay, thanks everyone, and welcome again to another fantastic episode of the Love Fruit podcast. And today we have an excellent guest. It's Robby Barbaro, and Robby is someone who I've worked alongside, who came to UK Fruit Fest and did fantastic job presenting at the event and teaching a lot of people about his journey. And he is probably one of the best known people now in terms of teaching people about healing from diabetes, in particular with the low fat plant-based diet. But Robby's actually a raw vegan, but he does teach people that you can do this without going 100% raw. But I know that Robby has been a long-term raw vegan, so he can teach people about that as well. But Robby also came out with his, I guess the words co-author or business partner, came out with a fantastic book that I believe is a big bestseller. So we're
A
going to
New York
talk about
Times bestseller,
New
Ronnie. We're
York
super
Times.
super happy about it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit, but that is absolutely amazing. And I I want to start off with this, Robby. We'll talk about your story a little bit, but to me, we've got the right information. You've got the right information. We know how to save people's lives, change people's lives. How do we get it out to more people? For you, is it through books? Is it entrepreneurship? Are you trying to get the government to change? What's
Okay,
your whole approach here?
Ronnie. First off, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate all your hard work and everything you do to try and help people make better lifestyle decisions. And I just want to comment on some of the things on the intro there. First off, again, thanks for talking about the book. I wrote this book with my co-founder Cyrus Kambata, who also has a lot of experience eating lots of fruit. So we kind of like he's also was one of the testimonials in Doug
Hmm.
Graham's book. That's how I first found out about Cyrus. So he was actually a testimonial in the 80-10-10 diet.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we kind of like both have that foundation of understanding the benefits and the scientific research supporting fruit as a health food, but also as a food that helps reverse insulin resistance. So just want to comment on that and say that, yeah, technically I follow a raw vegan diet. I've been doing that since December of 2006. But sort of tying into your question is we're really all about giving people options and showing the range and the versatility that can be
Mhm.
used to implement a healthy diet that can prevent and reverse chronic disease. So, when I talk about what I do and when we teach, we just really define it as a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet. And there's a lot of different ways to spin that, to do that. Yeah, you could do, lots of fruits and lots of greens like I'm doing. Or you could do a lot of starchy vegetables. You could do a lot of intact whole grains, a lot of beans. Like it's totally an option. And that's I think what we're really proud of in this book is if you read it and you read like every single word, you in the nuances of all the sentences, like you could say, like, oh, you know what? Okay, I could do a fruit-based version if I wanted to. Like that's an
Right.
option. So the point is, how do we get this to more people? I think you listed a few things there, and I think every angle is important. Everybody has to play their part. There's not one angle that's best, and then we should all just go and focus on that. I think if each individual who learns about this material and who becomes passionate about it and says, you know what, I want to spend a certain portion of my days advocating for healthy eating, I think if each person went down the lane that they are natively and authentically passionate about, like it's just in their being, and you have more and more people doing that, it's going to come together. You need the people who are going the political angle. You need the people who
Right.
are doing, the work of trying to change what foods are being fed in schools. You need the people like Dan Buettner, his whole Blue Zones work. His whole
Yeah.
philosophy is you have to change the environment. So he's going in and getting these big contracts with cities, and they change the entire city. Like how much biking space do they have? How much bike paths do they have? What foods are available in the the restaurants in the city, like what
Yeah.
foods are available in the elderly like living centers, like he's going at it from a
Yeah.
large scale perspective and saying if if we change the options, then people are going to end up picking the healthier options. And
Right.
then you have, the other side of the spectrum here is, the work that Forks Over Knives is doing. So I
Yeah.
helped build Forks Over Knives with Brian Wendell, who he is Forks Over Knives. Like that's all
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
It's his vision, it's his brainchild. I was his right-hand person and had a lot of fun learning
That's a
from him.
huge film. I mean, that's a really powerful, that's been a big
Yeah,
thing for a lot of
well,
people.
at this point, it's become a really strong brand. Like we moved beyond just the film. #1 New York Times best-selling book. Then several other bestsellers after that. There's a meal plan service there. There's magazines that literally, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Target or Walmart, anywhere in the country,
Yeah.
you're gonna find a Forks Over Knives magazine, which is pretty cool. And
I've never understood the name Forks Over Knives.
yeah, Forks Over Knives. So if you look at the original, that's a great question. If you look at the logo, the original logo, it's very
Yeah.
clear. The knife is a scalpel. So it's taking a reference of going
Ah,
under the
right.
knife. So if you eat
Right.
well with your fork, you can avoid going under the knife. So
Right.
that's
That
what's going
makes
on there.
sense. Yeah.
But the point is, Forks Over Knives, their angle is direct to consumer. Like and that's what we do at Mastering Diabetes as well. Let's teach people how to do this despite the environment they live in. It's a challenging world out there.
Sure.
It's a challenging environment. We're going to give you the tools, the skills, the communication ability, the planning ability, the knowledge to succeed in implementing a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet for the long term, regardless of what is happening around you.
Yeah. Are you a little concerned that if people sort of, but if you don't offer all those options, or rather, because I know I understand that you're probably one of the longest term, strictest raw vegans I know, right? There's not that many people that have who do it as well as you. And the way that you buy your food, organize it, it's amazing. Like, and obviously people can follow you on Instagram, Mindful Diabetic, to see all that. Um, but are you concerned that that would turn people off because they might think that's too extreme? Because I know that you always bring up the point, you want to give all these options. So do you feel that that's working better, like offering those options? You think you bring in more people?
Yeah, there's no question. I can say through my personal experience of working with thousands upon thousands of clients who have run through our coaching program at Mastering Diabetes, and Cyrus and I, both being, the leaders and founders of this. And when we originally launched the company in 2017, we were both 100% fruit based. And when we ran our retreats, we literally had the retreats 100% fruit based, and we got the most extraordinary results ever. And what the request we continued to have was, I want to learn how to eat potatoes at this retreat because I know it's part of your teaching point. So why don't you teach us how to do it at the retreat? Why don't you teach us how to eat quinoa and steamed plantains and teach us your full program?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, the number of people who I have seen who've, again, been through our coaching program, know my story, know what I do, but don't want to do it is extraordinary. And at some point you have to be like, okay, give the people what they want, teach them what they want. They don't want to do what I do. They just don't. It's too much work. It's potentially too expensive. If you want to eat actually diverse fruits, if you want to eat high quality fruits, depending on where they live, that could not even literally be an option unless you ship things in. So I fully understand and embrace that it's not practical for a majority of people to do what I do and what people see on my Instagram. That's just because I live in Santa Monica, California, which is literally one of the best
Mm.
places in the entire world to do what I'm doing. So I do it because I love it. It's my personal preference. It's accessible to me. It's a priority to me. I'd rather spend money on my food than
Yeah.
drive a fancy car or go on fancy vacations or live in a fancier apartment. I just choose to prioritize where I spend my money. That's my personal choice.
Amazing.
So, and I'm not gonna personally change my diet or what I do in order to, appease other people. I'm gonna always
Right.
do
Right.
what's good for me. And what we do, what I prefer, and I encourage that for everybody who comes across our paths, every client, every teacher, do what works for you. And of course, I am lucky that we have this company, Mastering Diabetes, and we have a separate Instagram account where we are teaching people all these options. So it's not my account. You're right.
Yeah.
My account could intimidate people. It could scare people. But if they click the @Mastering Diabetes in my profile, or they watch my story every day where I'm highlighting the work we do at Mastering Diabetes, they will then get referred to a much more, doable resource. And also my personal Instagram is always advertising about our book. And our book
Sure.
explains everything
Sure.
in the most doable. I'm telling you, this low-fat, plant-based, whole food diet, it can be so easy and
Yeah.
accessible and affordable in 2020. There is no time better in the modern era, the modern day, to be attempting to follow this diet. Like, we have a very
For
thorough
sure.
blog post about packaged foods that we recommend people eat. Packaged foods are not a problem. It's what's in the package. So when people go to the store and they buy, frozen blueberries, that's in a package. That's great.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
eating intact whole grains and beans, you can buy these packaged foods that literally they have farro, they have, like chickpeas and bell peppers and vegetables in one bag. That's it. No additives, no nothing. Like, that's an easy, convenient dinner for somebody that can be just as convenient as the lean cuisine stuff. They just need to be taught
Yeah.
how to use what's available, and even be taught what is available. People don't even know that these foods exist. They
Yeah.
don't. I mean, there's a lot of education that's got to happen out there.
Well, let's talk about you a little bit more. Your story. I think a lot of people would like to hear that, and there's potentially some people listening that haven't come across you before. I'm going to guess that potentially you would have never been on this path where you are right now with this book if years ago you hadn't been diagnosed yourself with type 1 diabetes. Is that the start of your health journey?
That's exactly right. And Cyrus and I both think it was a blessing in disguise, and that we are healthier now than we were certainly before we got diagnosed, and certainly probably healthier now than we would be if we did not get diagnosed. And we're continued going down the path we were going down, and our friends have continued to go down, or our old friends. So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12, just about to turn 13. That's over 20 years ago now. And type 1 diabetes is the form where your beta cells have been damaged. So the beta cells in my pancreas no longer secrete insulin, and I need to inject insulin to manage my blood glucose.
Yeah.
This is about 5 to 10% of all people living with diabetes. The majority of people are living with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And just so everybody knows, like, what we do at Mastering Diabetes, what this book is all about, is about reversing insulin resistance, which applies to all forms of diabetes. And we'll get into that a little more later. But I've been living with type 1 for 20 years. And over the years, I've tried many different diets. And really, what got me into changing my diet was my dad was selling supplements. And I was
Right.
like, wow, that's interesting. And he was basically handing out these pamphlets that the supplement company would provide, which explained to people that, hey, you know what? Our food supply is compromised. So therefore, you're missing nutrients. You should probably take these supplements. And that was the first nugget of knowledge where I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I never really thought about that. Because honestly, most people, including me, like, never really just thinks about the food we're
Yeah.
eating and how it's impacting our health. Like, I know
Absolutely.
that's mind-boggling for the people listening to this show, like, but we forget where we used to be and where most people are, and that's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the first nugget of like, okay, wow, like, there's something to learn here. And I kept on learning a little bit. And then eventually, as going down that path, I was a freshman in high school, and I went to Barnes and Noble, and I went and bought Spark Notes. So I don't know if you have something like that in the UK or not, but it's basically, Spark Notes are these little thin summary versions
Sure.
of big books you're supposed to read for school. So
Yeah.
do them in a normal high school.
Just a button. So you didn't actually, when you got diagnosed with diabetes, they didn't give you a different diet at that
No,
point?
as a matter of fact, this still happens today. When a young person is diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, the current teaching points are, we want you to be normal. We want you to feel like your friends.
Yeah.
So continue to eat the standard American diet. Continue to eat what your friends are eating. Don't feel like you have to be different now. Just learn how to dose insulin properly to control your blood glucose levels. That's the teaching point. And so at the time, we was living in Minnesota, and my parents wanted to make sure I had the best medical care possible. So they took us, me and my older brother, who also has type 1 diabetes, they took us to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And that's literally the best medical care you can get in the United States as far as like mainstream medical care.
Yeah.
And I had an endocrinologist, I had a psychologist, I had a nutritionist, I had a whole team that I would go and visit every 6 months. And not a single one of them mentioned improving your diet to maximize your insulin sensitivity and reduce your long-term chronic disease risk and improve your energy. Like none of that. It was just totally standard stuff. So anyways, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's amazing to me because my brother's a type 1 diabetic. At the least, I mean, I remember my mum having some different cookbooks and stuff like that, like low sugar. I thought that might have been what they told you. I guess that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well, me and my brothers, we all had to stop like sodas and things like that. We all changed at that point.
Mm-hmm. Hey, well, that's good. If you're getting out the processed sugar, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, I was at this bookstore, Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
And there's a book that basically fell off the shelf, and it just fell in my hands. It was called Kevin Trudeau's Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About.
Yeah.
And this guy had infomercials all over the place. He was selling millions of copies of this book.
Yep.
I don't recommend this book. I don't recommend this guy. He ended up going to jail for some fraud. Like, this is not recommending here. But the book changed my life. It planted a seed in my mind that maybe it would be possible to reverse type 1 diabetes and to get my beta cells to work again if I started living a healthy lifestyle and allowed those cells to regenerate. Mm-hmm. So that was my mindset, and that changed my life forever. And that set me down on this path to learn anything and everything I could and to apply it to the best of my ability. So first, I ended up finding the Weston A. Price Foundation, and that's an organization that gets you off of processed foods, but they're also having you eat a lot of grass-fed beef and raw milk. I would actually go to the local farmer's market and buy milk for cats because you can't sell raw milk to humans. So I was following what they were teaching. And I did that, and I saw some improvements in my overall health, but I didn't see anything change in regards to my diabetes health. So the next thing I came across was Gabriel Cousens and his phase 1 program. He had a movie like Raw for 30 Days, and there was this guy, Kurt Tyson, in there who, long story short,
how did you come across that movie?
I came across that movie through an online forum.
Oh, right, okay.
It was called GLiving. If anybody out here listening to this show remembers this forum, GLiving, and it was a high-end website for people who wanted to live a green eco lifestyle, but like expensive stuff, like fancy bamboo tables and fancy houses, and like the people on the forum followed a fancy raw food diet.
Wow.
And at this time, I just loved I was reading blogs, which was like new and cool. I was listening to podcasts, which was also new and cool. I felt like I was hip, like even being on this website. And the people I was on the forum, and I was telling them that I was doing the Weston A. Price Foundation. I was explaining to them why raw milk was so important.
Yeah.
And they wrote back to me, and they were like, have you seen the movie Earthlings? Right. And I was like, no, but I'll check it out. I was open-minded. So I went and watched Earthlings. And this time, I'm a freshman at the University of Florida at this point. And I watched that movie, and I just it blew my mind. The thing that really hit me was the fact that I was a pretty smart person. I got into a really good college, the top of my class. It was very hard to get into the University of Florida. And I didn't know about this. How did I not know where my food came from? How did I not know that this was the system? Like, how was this hidden from me? And that just set me on a path to go back to the forum and be like, okay, guys, I'm open-minded now. Like, I'm willing to listen to you. What do you got? And that put me in the raw food world. That put me in the Gabriel Cousens. That got me. I started to learn about eventually Frederick Patnud and the programs that he had with Doug Graham. And this is before the 80-10-10 book was out. So this is like September of 2006.
Yeah.
And then Doug's book comes out in December of 2006. I read it right through. And then that's when I start doing private consultations with him. So for 90 days straight, I emailed him every single day. He emailed me back every single day. We became pretty good friends, got to know each other. And I was a darn good student. And any teacher loves a darn good student. And I was getting incredible results. So as a person living with type 1 diabetes, the fact that I was just now eating this absurd amount of fruit, like just a lot. And then literally my insulin requirements, my insulin sensitivity improving dramatically was mind blowing. And so my symptoms, like my skin cleared up. I had plantar fasciitis that went away. I had terrible acne. That's when my skin cleared up. And then I had allergies, like that cleared up. I just saw this amazing transformation personally. And that got me intrigued to like look into this more. And I went back into the research, and I found that literally in the world's top peer-reviewed journals, New England Journal of Medicine, just literally top journals, people have been documenting that when you increase your carbohydrate intake and you decrease your fat, your insulin sensitivity improves. Like
Right.
decade after decade. 1926, Dr. Sansom. And literally, insulin was discovered in 1921, first used in humans in 1922. So we're talking like the mid 1920s is when we even begin to have a conversation about insulin.
Amazing. Yeah.
Okay. And literally, the top papers show objectively more carbohydrate, more improved insulin sensitivity, but more importantly, diabetes was a death sentence at that time. So their insulin sensitivity was improving, but they were also getting to eat carbohydrate foods again because the doctors could use insulin. Before then, to stay alive, you just had to like try and not eat food, not eat carbohydrates. You're just trying to stay alive,
Yeah.
and you didn't stay alive very long.
Yeah.
But the point is, 1930s, we start getting work from Rabinowitz. Okay, 30s and 40s, we get work from Dr. Hemsworth, who was one of
Yeah.
the leaders in figuring out the distinction between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the distinction between excess insulin production and not enough insulin production. And then you move into Kempner's work in the 50s. And then you got Dr. Keim in the 70s. And you got, you get into Pritikin's work. Like, it's study after study after study
Yeah.
demonstrating this. And again, that's a lot of what we cover in our book, but we cover the biochemistry behind it and obviously a lot of the newer science as well. But for me, long story short, when I did the Gabriel Cousens program, that's a plant-based ketogenic diet before that was even defined or even that was a thing, but that's what it is. When I did that, and you compare that program versus the low-fat plant-based whole food diet I eat now,
Yeah.
my insulin sensitivity improved by 900%.
My God.
And insulin
Yeah.
sensitivity, I mean, that's how efficiently insulin takes glucose out of your bloodstream and into your cells. And the reason that's so important is because insulin resistance is the cause of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. It's also the root issue behind the complications of type 1 and type 1.5 diabetes and people's inability to control their blood glucose. So the frustrating day-to-day of type 1 diabetes where you're going up and you're going down all the time, the root of that is insulin resistance. But people living with type 1 diabetes, we don't die of high blood glucose readings. We die of the complications, heart disease being the #1 killer of all people living with diabetes, including type 1s. So when you follow this lifestyle where you're addressing insulin resistance, that's what's applicable to all forms of diabetes. So I'm having this personal experience of, okay, wow, I'm eating all these carbohydrate foods. I'm injecting a physiologically normal amount of insulin, about 27 units of insulin per day. And just for context, people who follow a low carbohydrate diet, okay, an animal-based, this is published research, animal-based low carbohydrate diet, 30 grams of carbohydrate per day, inject on average 30 total units of insulin. That's a 1-to-1 24-hour carbohydrate insulin sensitivity, okay? Mm-hmm. I eat personally, okay, over 700 grams of carbohydrate per day and inject 27 units of insulin. So the change here is dramatic. Like it is volumes, and the change happens quickly. So at this time, I'm a freshman at the University of Florida. I'm having this insight, I'm having this experience, and I realize people living with type 1 diabetes, we are the ultimate test subject for insulin sensitivity because we know exactly how much insulin we're injecting. We count the carbohydrates we consume so we know how much insulin to inject, and we monitor our blood glucose all day long. Those 3 pieces of data are exactly what you need to measure insulin sensitivity. You don't know that, Ronnie. You don't know how much insulin your pancreas is secreting meal to meal. You could count your carbohydrates and you could test your blood glucose, but you're missing that essential piece of data. So I'm having this experience. I'm reading it in the literature. I'm like, wait a minute. What I'm experiencing in my own body, every single meal, every single day is the solution to prediabetes and type 2 diabetes, which is impacting over 100 million people in the US alone, costing us billions of dollars. And I'm just like sitting on the solution. I got to do something about this.
It's funny because sometimes I'm in different forums and whatever, and I just remember someone saying, actually, I think it was today or yesterday, and this wasn't to do with diabetes. It was to do with something else. But um, they were sort of saying, and I'm not going to listen to you until you get your medical certificate or, or something like that.
Sure, sure,
Or
sure.
I'm not, like, but then at the same time, I know people who are medical doctors that are suggesting this information to people, and people just still have another excuse,
Sure.
why they're not
Yeah.
listening to them. So uh, from there, I mean, you Doug was obviously a bit of a turning point, but the thing I wanted to just pick out there, what you're saying is the difference between a raw vegan high fat diet and the low fat, the kind of the approach you're doing now. Even that was dramatic between those two in terms of the
Oh yeah,
insulin.
for sure, for sure. The fat content of your diet is the biggest
Yeah.
culprit in
Okay.
the development of insulin resistance. Period. End of story. Trans fats are the worst. Saturated fats are the second worst. And then unsaturated fatty acids in excess are a problem.
Yeah. So I guess for you to be doing what you're doing, I'm guessing that kind of you're kind of painting this picture like you're sitting there, you've got the solution. There's 100 million people that need this answer. So how did you start that process of trying to get the information out to people, and what have you done? I mean, I know you saying you worked
Yeah.
with Forks Over
So, I
Knives, but
mean,
maybe.
this has been just a personal passion project since I learned about it, just wanting to share this with other people. So, initially, I would say, 2006, 2007, 2008, I'm just like learning, acquiring information, reading research studies. I was involved with Doug Graham's programming in Costa Rica, in Seattle, learning a lot there. And it was fun. So, I did a little bit of coaching in college.
Hmm.
And then when I had the opportunity to join the Forks Over Knives team very early on, I jumped on that, and that was my focus for like 6 years. So at that point, I was doing a little bit of coaching on the side. Started my Instagram account while I was at Forks Over Knives, but really the main focus there was to make sure that whole operation was as successful as possible. And it was a small team, and we got a lot done, and we certainly made a lot of progress there. So yeah, at that play, at that, Forks Over Knives, it was really just consistently publishing great content on our website, writing great books, and creating tools and programs that people could benefit from. But then in 2016, that's when I decided to leave Forks Over Knives to go basically focus on diabetes coaching full time.
Yeah.
And then Cyrus and I started Mastering Diabetes together in 2017. And at that point, our mission was to create a website and online coaching program for people living with all forms of diabetes and help people adopt the low-fat plant-based whole food diet and what we've developed into the Mastering Diabetes method. And at that point, at that time, and really to this day, there wasn't any other option for a website or an online coaching program to go to if you were living with diabetes and wanted to follow a plant-based diet. Like
Yeah.
at Forks Over Knives, we were publishing good content, but we did not provide the nuances, and we didn't provide coaching to help people get through that. And I'm telling you, diabetes is very nuanced. The different
Okay.
types, the different medications.
Okay.
Um, it's there's a lot of people need the support, and this idea of deprescribing medication, that's brand new. That's not, there's no guidelines from leading
Yeah.
organizations on how to do that. So finding the doctors who can help you with that and getting them in touch and teaching people, when it's a good time to reduce this medication, which medications you reduce first, which we have an entire chapter about that in the book,
Yeah.
which is really something we put a lot of time into and
The
is really passionate about.
the scope, the scale of what you're doing. I mean, you're talking about 100 million people out there at least in the need. Have you got a vision that you can reach that kind of level of people? Do you think you can build what you're doing to? I mean, there's a demand and the need out there.
The sky is the limit. Put it
Sure.
that way. And at the end of the day, I mean, you're not going to find every single one of those people have the desire to change their lifestyle,
Sure.
but a certain percent absolutely do if they are given the correct information and the resources and the teaching on how they can do it. Because a lot of people, they just literally don't understand the fact that they can eat fruit.
Yeah.
Like they literally they go to the doctor. The doctor's telling them, okay, you have diabetes. You're going to be on metformin, for the rest of your life. Maybe it might progress to other medications. Do your best to try and not let it progress. And here's a low carbohydrate diet. Here's your little pamphlet. Like that. That's what people. That's what's happening out there. And so if we can gain awareness, raise awareness for what we're doing, and let people know, hey, this is an option. A certain number of people are going to raise their hand and be like, okay, yeah, you know what, I want to do that. And I didn't know that I could have these delicious meals. I
Yeah.
didn't know. So yeah, we're trying to reach a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my part of the thing that I think needs to happen for this information to get out there, and yeah, there's a scientific side of it, but you've kind of already mentioned the science is there and it has been there for a long time. Okay, we can keep on getting more and more science, and that's great. I actually participated in a study a while back that was about, I think it was about insulin sensitivity actually, or it was about like, because what I had to do was ride a bike and then have a sugary drink, and then they were
Yeah,
measuring something there.
it's probably did
So
an oral glucose tolerance test.
yeah, and I'm like, I was in, I was participating in the thing partly because I thought they would give me some blood test results for free, and that was part of my motivation to do it. But I was sitting there with these doctors thinking, like, I know the answer to, like, why are you even studying this? Like,
That's
I
funny.
don't
That's
even
funny.
understand why people are
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, we can treat people with exercise. It's like,
for sure.
well, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I will say, I think there's a lot of nuances and new things we could learn and refinements we can make. So I certainly believe in more research and new research, and let's continue to go down that path and learn. But we know the basics. We know the basics, and we can certainly turn around a lot of people's lives with good information, solid resources. And there's really not that many questions when it comes to like what
Yeah.
foods humans should be eating.
I think the thing I was going to say is I think more people need to do specifically what you're doing, which is not trying to create something that is the vegan or plant-based, as in whether people are putting out content or start to coach, rather than saying I'm vegan, I'm plant-based, rather say reach the people that you can actually help because you had the experience they had, whether it is diabetes, whether it is heart disease, weight loss. I just think more. I'd love to see more people follow what you're doing for the thing that got them into this. Like,
Mm.
if it was acne, someone could create an entire coaching thing just out of that, out of how
Yeah.
they improve their act. This
There's a book. There's a book
millions of people
there's a
need.
plant-based book on the topic, which is very solidly evidence-based. It's called the Clear Skin Diet, and I
Right.
highly recommend people buy it.
And but I just envision this as part of trying to get this information out there as what you're doing. But what I'm interested in is this, Robby, because the science has been there for a long time. Um, what about the politics of the diabetes kind of, I don't want to say industry, if that's the right word, but I've heard things like the diabetes charities won't publish certain things because it goes against what the companies that produce insulin, for example, the drug companies, they don't want to publish things that say, hey, you need to change your diet and you can actually reverse this and never need insulin again. Um, have you come across any of that, or is that a problem? Is there influences that are trying to stop you doing what you're doing? I'd just like to
Um, you
hear.
know, it's a good question. It's something I haven't really focused on. I haven't
Sure.
really looked into it. I'm just laser focused on providing, again, services and products and resources direct to consumer to help people who are looking for this information. I mean, people are typing into Google reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. How do I reverse type 2 diabetes? What foods should I eat for diabetes? How do I lower my A1C with type 1 diabetes? Like,
Yeah.
people are searching, and we're here to provide, a website and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all these and podcasts to just help people. And what those organizations do, what those big companies are doing, it's just not a thing I spend my time on.
Well, that's even interesting because I know that Google is kind of clamped down on people that have any kind of supposedly like natural remedies and things. It's just blanket trying to stop people finding that stuff, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, that is a little scary. I've certainly heard about that. And again, there's only so much we can control. So
Sure.
all we can do is write the articles and cite the research. And we like something we're just very proud of what we do at Mastering Diabetes. It's 100% evidence-based. Like, this is not our story and then our opinion and then you should do this. It's if there ever is anything like that of, oh, hey, you know what? We have a suggestion to make. It actually hasn't been studied, but this is what we think based on, experience with clients and our personal experience. Like, you can consider trying this. We would always say that and make that clear. But as far as what's in our book, what's the protocol, this is 100% evidence-based.
I want to ask you, we know, so the cause of type 2 diabetes is the diet, right? Pretty much.
Yes, diet and lifestyle, yes.
Type 1 diabetes may be more controversial or maybe a little bit more mysterious. I've seen, I think even some of the plant-based doctors have suggested there might be a connection for some people with cow's milk being a problem there that might have a relationship to type 1 diabetes happening. Do you have any insight or any thoughts on what causes it?
So we did discuss that research in our book, and there's definitely some plausibility there. But honestly, when it comes to the cause of type 1 diabetes, we just don't know. We just don't
Sure.
know. And again, I don't think the dairy is helping, but I unfortunately know of people who are vegan since birth who developed type 1 diabetes.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
The bottom line is we just don't know. And that's okay. That's part of human history. There's plenty of things we didn't know in the past, and we ended up figuring it out at some point. I think that's going to happen with type 1. But what we do know is that we can have full control of our blood glucose. We can have incredibly healthy A1C values, which everybody with type 1 is looking to do. We can have a high quality life, and we can reduce our long-term chronic disease risk by following a low-fat, plant-based, whole food lifestyle.
So how did the book come along? Is this something that you wrote, or did someone approach you? How did that all come together?
So basically, our members would keep on asking us, hey, like, when are you going to write a book? When are you going to write a book? Like, I just want to pass this on, just share it with somebody. I can't explain it all myself. I just want to give my doctor your book. So it was certainly requested. And certainly we had on our radar as well. And so it came time to put together a proposal. Hey, this is what we want to share with the world. This is a book that we think needs to be written. This is why it's different than everything that's already on the market. This is what we want to add to the space. And we went out and pitched it to publishers, and then the publishers decide to, whether they want to take you or not. And we had a lot of interest, and luckily we got to pick, one of the world's top publishers, which is Penguin Random House, and got it published with them, and went through it took like 2 years to put the whole thing together and get it out onto bookshelves and Amazon, and then it became a New York Times bestseller, Publishers Weekly bestseller, USA Today. So it's definitely impacting a lot of people. We're super pumped about it, and we're going to continue to push the book. We have November coming up, Diabetes Awareness Month. We're going to be doing some special things in that month.
Amazing.
So it's a great resource. It's affordable. It's accessible. Internationally, people can buy the book on bookdepository.com, and they will literally ship you the book for free worldwide. You get 15% off the cover price, and they will ship it to you anywhere in the world. So that's making it accessible. If you live in America, you can get it on Kindle and Nook. We read our own audiobook. So if you use Audible or you listen to audiobooks on Google Play or any other platform, Cyrus and I read the book, and we added some extra information on the Audible version. So that's fun. But again, that's only in America, unfortunately. It's not going to work on Audible in the UK or something like that.
Right,
but
okay.
You get the hardcover version through Book Depository.
That's amazing. And has that really changed things for you guys? Like, I saw you getting interviewed on the Rich Roll podcast and stuff. Has that really expanded your awareness out there? There's
no question that the book is raised the awareness of what we're doing, like, big time, which really is, we're super grateful about it, and appreciative, because our members are getting these results, and literally their doctors are like, what's going on? They say, oh, just get this book. Or the patients are like literally giving their doctor the book. Hey, you should talk about this with your patients. And really, word of mouth is the best thing that we have going for us. And people get results and they say, how'd you do it? Well, go check out this book, Mastering Diabetes.
Awesome. And I hope you're getting a lot of cool opportunities coming your way and stuff, and opportunities to reach more people as well.
I appreciate that. All the good vibes, I'll take it. We have a lot of work to do, millions upon millions of people to reach, and a lot of partnerships to make in order to make this thing a much more, just much more widely available. So we're working away one day at a time.
How is the pandemic affecting things where you are? Has it affected what you guys are doing at all?
I would say for us, everything we do is digital. As far as it's an online coaching program, we do have in-person retreats, and we had to postpone that, which was heartbreaking. And we did a virtual retreat, but that kind of like was also really beautiful. And a lot of people got
Nice.
to attend that wouldn't have been able to come down to Costa Rica,
Nice.
and they had extraordinary results. Like we didn't know what was going to happen on a 4-day virtual retreat. I know what's going to happen when you come to Costa Rica for 4 days and we control your food and
Yeah.
we're doing exercise with you. Like, it's remarkable. But when people were in their home environment and we're not overseeing them, and they have, all their challenges with their family and maybe the unhealthy foods laying around, like, I don't know what's going to happen. And we were blown away. Like, we saw the same results we see in Costa Rica because people followed the meal plan. We gave them a meal plan, and they would eat the recipes that we would have normally made for them in Costa Rica, and they got extraordinary results. And they did the exercise sessions with us via Zoom, and it was just a lot of fun. So we're doing another one. It's called our Holiday Success Virtual Retreat. That's going to happen starting on November 12th to the 15th, which is
Oh, wow.
actually going to be a lot of fun. November 14th is World Diabetes Day. So we'll be running that virtual retreat during World Diabetes Day, during Diabetes Awareness Month. So if anybody wants to join that, they can just check it out, masteringdiabetes.org/retreat, or they can just DM me or email us, team@masteringdiabetes.org. But yeah, so our retreats got impacted, but other than that, we're trucking along and helping the people. I mean, I think to a certain extent, you could argue that as far as people getting used to telemedicine, people getting used to
Right.
doing things online, I guess you could argue that was beneficial. But it's hard to think that way when so many people are losing their lives, and then there's just a lot of confusion around people losing jobs, and just the
Sure.
whole thing is obviously just a sad situation. So all we can do is deal with the reality that's been put our way and continue to move forward. And we're certainly really advocates of teaching people how to improve their innate immunity. So we know statistically it's the comorbidities are the biggest problem here. So if you do contract COVID-19, if you don't
For
have
sure.
comorbidities,
Yeah.
your success rate is going to be a heck of a lot
Yeah.
higher. So we're just really, if
Yeah.
anything, it just makes us more passionate about the work we're doing,
Amazing. Yeah.
to set people up for success.
So let's see the book. Have you got a cover of the book there so that the
Here it
people that are
is,
watching it on video can
Mastering
see it?
Diabetes.
Awesome.
And the subtitle is The Revolutionary Method to Reverse Insulin Resistance Permanently in Type 1, Type 1.5, Type 2, Prediabetes, and Gestational Diabetes. So it's really about insulin resistance, and that's the key thing here.
So if you can just, I just wanted to say to everyone listening, Robby's a very busy guy at the moment. Unfortunately, we couldn't go much longer than this, but I would have loved to have got more chance and maybe another day. But Robby, just finish off with maybe a last minute advice for people, and where can they find you and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can find us, best place, masteringdiabetes.org. Head to our website, get in touch with us there. We have a quiz in the upper right corner. You can find out how insulin resistant are you, and that's actually really valuable information. And you can find us, we have a podcast, type in Mastering Diabetes into any podcast platform, and you'll find that it's called the Mastering Diabetes Audio Experience. We have a YouTube channel. We publish videos there. We're very active on Instagram @Mastering Diabetes. We have a Facebook page also called Mastering Diabetes. And obviously the book is available anywhere books are sold. And I guess the tip that I would give people is honestly continue to get educated. I really think that's
Absolutely.
step one. Like, take the time to understand and really know why you're eating more fruits and vegetables. Like, what is the benefits there? Like what level of science is supportive of that? And reading our book and tuning into our YouTube channel and our content can help you do that, in addition to a wide range of additional resources. But just become more knowledgeable. And I genuinely believe that that knowledge just like begins to permeate into your lifestyle decisions once you know. And you just start to automatically start making better decisions. And then that momentum, that snowball starts to roll, and you're like, oh wow, you're like, I'm going to do more and more and more, and I just keep feeling better. And all of a sudden you're setting yourself up for success.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Robby, and I highly encourage everyone. And I've witnessed Robby helping people out for, not being paid for it, not anything like that, just helping people out of the passion. I've seen it with my own eyes, the hours you put in to help people. So I've witnessed that, and obviously I highly recommend what you're doing. And thank you for listening to this podcast, everyone. If you can share it, like it, whatever you want to do, rate it, and if you want to learn more about what we're doing, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk and you can check out more of our stuff there.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
was at
very
that. I went to the Fruit Fest. It's a fantastic event, guys. I highly, highly recommend it. If you can go, you should go.
Thank you very much, Robby. And that's it. We're out.
Catch you later.